So yeah, we'll see who starts coming in here. Oh, they're piling in. Yay. It's exciting. It's crazy, these virtual conferences. I wish we were all in person and we could, like, I am three-dimensional, just not just a flat face. Great, we've got lots of people piling in here. So welcome everybody. We'll get started in just a moment. Let me make sure I've got my slides ready to go on here too for you. I do, it should all work. So let's see. Great. Well, I want to make the most of this hour, so I'm going to dive in. And anybody coming in a little late, that's, they'll just catch up, right? So hi, everybody. I'm Elle Ingalls. I am a high performance coach, author, and speaker, and I'm the creator of this thing called the Pressure-Free Method. And in this session, I'm going to dive deeply into sharing what that method is with you. But I want to start by just kind of remembering a time that was, well, let me just put it this way. The phone rang. The phone rang, and I was walking around the house kind of picking things up when it rang. So I grabbed it and I'm talking, and it was my dad. And I was really excited because usually I just talk to my parents on the weekend. I lived 1,000 miles away from my folks. So weekends were our time to catch up. And it was the middle of the week. And I'm like, Dad, it was exciting, but I'm still like picking things up. And then he starts talking, and his voice, I could tell like, all right, something is up. And so I stopped and I like sat down, and he goes, honey, your mom isn't doing well. I think you need to come out here. And my parents like never wanted us to come out unless we were visiting for fun, like any emergencies or anything, like we've got this, you stay there, take care of the kids, so this was serious. And I'm like, oh, Dad. And I said, well, spring break is coming up. In a couple of weeks, should I just like pile the kids and we come? And so that's what we did. So the first, I knew something was wrong just by his voice, but then when we got to the airport, my mom always picked us up, but no, Dad was picking us up. So that was the second clue something was up. The next clue was when we got there. My dad had one of those lazy boy chairs, where you can put the feet up and all that. Never once had my mother, like none of us sat in that chair except for him, right? And when I walk into the house, Mom is in that lazy boy chair, and it's all the way up. And I'm like, wow, this is really serious. So my mom had breast cancer 5 years before, and it was obviously back, and it happened that it was in her brain and in her spine. So, so it was really kind of I'm trying to make it a fun time for the kids, but it was a really serious time. And we got home, told my husband everything going down, and because he couldn't come with us. And that next morning, got home very late on a Thursday night. The next morning, I'm like making breakfast, getting my husband out the door. It's spring break still, having fun with the kids, trying to do something with kids. And then I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even gone to the bathroom yet. So I look at my two youngest, my other older one's outside already. I look at them, I go, guys, Mommy has to go upstairs for just 15 minutes, okay? Just 15 minutes. I'll be right back down, and then we'll like go off and do something. So I start up the stairs, and I'm on the landing. My eldest comes crashing in the kitchen, and he goes, Mother, Mom, he's screaming my name, right? I turn around. I kid you not. This is him describing how I was. I'm like, I can't even go to the bathroom in my own house. And I was just like completely distraught. And my young son, I don't swear in front of my kids, like this is a horrible moment. He crosses his arms at the bottom, and he looks at me, he's about like 12, and he goes, well, I think we better call the goddamn police because our mom's out of control, like that. And I was just like, and I just lost it. I remember just kind of like falling to the floor on the landing of the stairs, and tears are just streaming out. I'm like, my mom is dying. I'm out of control. I just yelled at my kids like horribly. And so it's like, this happens. You not only have your work stressors and what you're trying to do there and the people you're trying to serve and taking the secondhand stressors on of all of that, but you've got your family stressors. And even though we try to be professional and keep this compartmentalized over here, it's so hard. If we've got stress going on, it's affecting us. And what I'm going to share today is a simple way for you to start to get a handle on your stress, whether it's work stress or home stress, because they all affect you as a human being. And they're all affecting the people that you serve and the people you work with and live with. So I'm going to pull up some slides here and we will dive in. And here we go. Hopefully this is all going to work for you. So I'm going to call this the pressure-free professional. How to up-level your productivity, presence, patience, how you're going to take everything kind of to the next level, and how you're going to deal with stress, again, both at work and at home. So we're going to dive deeply into the fight, flight, freeze, and there's going to be a couple other F's, including FIB, that I share with you today that might be new and eye-opening. What stress hormones do to you, how to stop releasing these stress hormones. These stress hormones, by the way, are the true enemy. It's not the stressors that you're having to deal with. It's actually the hormones, okay? The release of the hormones. I'm going to give you the 10-second solution to pressure-free living and some starter tools. I'm going to give you as many starter tools as I can in our hour here. And so there's 3 numbers I want you to walk away with today. 9 hours, 24 hours, and then 10 seconds. So if you can remember those 3 numbers, that's going to help set you up. And if you can take away just one of the tools I share with you today, I know it's going to make an impact in your life. I know it's going to make a difference. So this fight or flight stress response, most of you are you're probably familiar with fight or flight. So what is this response? It's your body's natural defense mechanism to muster energy to escape an attack. So you're either going to, basically run away from the fire, or you're going to fight with a club. You're going to do something to save yourself. So this is your body's natural response. However, today, most of us are not under physical attack, although I have worked with clients who have been, but we're overreacting. And there are no more saber-tooth tigers, they're extinct. We've become really good at overreacting to people, to situations, to sounds, to smells. I overreact to smells, by the way. Anything burning, like if someone burns some toast in the toaster oven, I'm like, what's that burning smell? So we overreact, and that's what's releasing our stress hormones today. As a result, we've created a very stressed culture. Anxiety disorders, and these are 2018 stats. I can't even imagine what the 2020 stats are going to be on this. And keep in mind, these are people who have gone to get some help. Anxiety disorders affect 40 million adults in the US, age 18 and older. That's over 18% of the population every year. And then anxiety disorders for children, it's over 25% between 13 and 18 years old. We've created a very stress-based culture. In fact, most of us think that stress is normal. And I'm here to claim right now that I don't believe it is. It's not normal. It's not okay to be nervous before a meeting or a conference. It's not okay to be afraid for your child when they're going out to play a concert or a sports contest. It's not normal. But we think it is now. So I'm going to share the pressure-free method with you. These are tools that are going to help you improve your productivity and your job performance, help you stay healthier, calmer, and happier. And I really use that word happier on purpose. And feel empowered so that you can truly succeed, whatever it is your endeavor is, whatever your situation or problem is, so you can truly succeed, even if that's simply keeping yourself healthier. We're going to start with the ABCs of pressure-free. I use a lot of alliteration to help make it easy for you to remember things. And we're going to not go all the way to Z, by the way. Phew. We're going A through H, okay? So if you're taking notes, you can jot this all down. By the way, my email, if you want to directly email me, is ELLE@pressure-free.com. And if you email me, I will send you videos that match this content and even take you a little deeper, and a whole workbook of actually my full course. I'm just like providing that. So I really want to help you guys. And so if you want to ever email me, please feel free. You can also find me online easily. So these are the emotions that can trigger fight or flight. Anytime you feel angry, annoyed, anxious, afraid, or ashamed. So anything that makes you start to feel angry, If it's something in your control or out of control, doesn't matter. Any sort of anger or frustration. Annoyance and anger kind of way they're on a continuum. Like you get a little annoyed, and then you're full blown angry about something. And everyone's tolerance for annoyance and anger is different. You may feel like someone is just not very, just not annoyed, but they're full blown angry. And that's because they really feel they're just annoyed with you. So it's really personal how we feel about these emotions. Any sort of worry or anxiety or nervousness, anytime you have any sort of fear, anytime you're afraid. And then the last one is shamed. We can all think of crap in our past that we wish we hadn't done. Things we wish we hadn't said, things we wish we hadn't physically done, actions we took that were like later, why did I even do that? You know, there's so much we can feel ashamed about. We can also feel ashamed for things that have been done to us. So any of those kind of looping things that you might feel ashamed about, any of these emotions can prime you to trigger the fight or flight stress response. So you probably have a chief aim. Mine is annoyance. I get annoyed at all kinds of little things. I raised 3 boys and, you know, there'd be dirty socks somewhere. Just drive me crazy. So little annoyances are definitely mine. When we trigger fight or flight, we exhibit these behaviors typically. We can get really bitchy and bossy. And some people even bully and they're not even realizing that they're bullying another human. Most bullying behavior is simply because someone is under the line. They've been bullied themselves and they exhibit that same behavior. Blaming. So you'll finger point. It's her fault I haven't finished my degree. Well, it's his fault we don't have this project done because his part isn't done yet. You know, we'll finger point. We're looking for answers when we're in fight or flight. We're just trying to survive. So we'll blame other things and other people or shame ourselves. Because we're trying to find those answers for why we don't feel good. Broken. This is an interesting one. It's really just been in the past like 5 years of my coaching that I've had clients say to me, I feel like my brain is broken. I'm hearing that a lot from 20-somethings who have been doing a lot of marijuana. I feel like my brain is broken. It's not functioning right. So, but just going into fight or flight, that's going to cause you maybe to have some brain fog, or like you can't remember people's names, or you have test anxiety. Like all this is just not working very well. We can also get really burnt out, overwhelmed. People in the nonprofit fields, people in the helping fields often experience a lot of burnout. We're giving, and it's just not being replenished. This method I'm going to teach you is helping you self-replenish, if that makes sense. Self-replenish. All right, so C's. Calm, confident, courageous, committed. These are words that my clients shared with me. They start to feel when they get a little toehold on this method and they start using it, they start to feel calmer, more confident, more in control of their emotions, and more competent. Like they can take on even more projects because they're finally finding that they're not spending a lot of time in negativity or in all of those A's and B's that we just went through. So the C's are really what you start to feel. The D's create success for you. So you decided to come here today, and I am so happy you did, because if you just take one little thing away from here, it's going to have a ripple effect. You're going to start to be different. In fact, I encourage you to share what I'm sharing with you to somebody within the next 24 hours, especially if you live with someone, because just having the information I'm going to share with you today, you will be different. You will be more resilient. And so you might not react the way the person is used to you. The people that love us the most know how to push all our buttons, don't they? Let's be honest. My guys know exactly how to get a rise out of me. So when you start to do this and use this method, you're not going to behave the same way. And that's going to, create some curiosity. So make sure you share. Pressure Free is meant to be shared. So you decided to come here. You're going to learn this. Then do. I want you to take a little bit of action, like teaching this to someone else or using one of the tools that I shared today. when you start to feel any of those A emotions. I want you to start to do it. It's not hard. In fact, I'm working right now with a young woman. She's 18. She's been hospitalized in a mental institution 3 times in her life already. And she started to work with me, and we're like on the 3rd session, but after the 2nd one, we're at the end of it, she goes to me, "Elle, I can do this." I'm like, yes, you can. This is not rocket science. Pressure free is not rocket science. It's really easy to do. You just have to decide that you are going to do it. It takes a little bit of determination to use this method, because I want you to use it all day, every day, all day long. A lot of D's in there. It becomes a daily discipline so that you prevent and stop the release of these stress hormones. And that's because I believe that you deserve to have a really amazing life. Obviously, you're someone who cares, and you're going over and above. You're in a career that is serving at the highest level. And I believe that you and everyone you serve deserves to have a fulfilling life. But here's the secret. I can want that for you. The only person that can allow and receive in is you. So I feel like there's this big key we have to turn in our heart, like turn it, and say, yes, I deserve to have a really fulfilling and beautiful life. I deserve to be able to serve a lot of people with my gifts and talents. And so deserve is really an important word here. Here are the words again that my clients said they start to feel: energized, exhilarated, empowered, and enlightened. My job today is to empower and enlighten you. If I can empower you, enlighten you about stress, what it does to you, your clients, and everybody around you, that's going to empower you. And then you're going to start to use this method and feel the benefits of what it means to get a real night's sleep. Doesn't matter how many hours. If you've triggered the stress response, you're not getting a real night's sleep. So if you get a real night's sleep, you wake up energized and exhilarated. When I was first creating this method in 2010, my eldest was 18, so a teenager, senior in high school. He started getting up earlier and earlier, and so did I. We were the first people using this method. And one morning I'm up at like 4:30. He comes down around 4:45 and he goes, "I feel so calm and exhilarated every morning now." And I'm like, I know, what is this? And we were kind of early to bed people. So we realized that we didn't even need to go to bed so early because we were finally really resting. So he came up with calm and exhilarated. And then I started asking my other clients, like, what are you feeling? And they're like, oh yeah, I feel so energized. You know, you've empowered me, and all these other words. So those are the words we're aiming for in Pressure Free. So let's get to the F. So these are the F words. Fight, flight, freeze, fib, and fawn. So some people, when they trigger the stress response, these can be your clients, the people you live with, they get aggressive. They want to fight back. You're literally fighting for your life when you're in fight or flight, even if it's about vacuuming. It's like once we trigger the response, we're in our survival brain, and anything can feel like a threat. Even if it's totally benign, it's not at all a real threat. When you're in fight or flight, your brain is vulnerable. You are vulnerable. And so you'll treat things in a whole different way. So fight, maybe you want to flee, you want to run away, you want to just pull the covers up and like start the day over a different day. So some of us flee, we really want to flee. Or you may freeze. You feel stuck, you can't make a decision, your brain is mush, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. And you feel very frozen or paralyzed. This next one, fib, came to me from a client who goes to a lot of ADD and ADHD conferences, and she learned this at a conference. She said that people who have those conditions will often fib. And I'm like, well, I've done that. And here's what I mean. So your boss asks you, or your board member, whomever, says, oh, is that project done yet? And you really haven't started it, but you'll like, oh, it's almost finished, because you know you can get it done by the deadline. But you make up a little white lie because you don't really want them to know that you haven't even started it yet, and you're a little stressed about it. So you'll make up a little fib to cover your butt, basically. And then this last one, I learned this from a woman who's delved deeply into childhood trauma and trauma in general. And people who've experienced a lot of trauma will often over flatter or fawn. So they'll be like, oh, I love your sweater. It's so beautiful. And they're like excessively flattering. It's because they're desperate for attention. And so you might see people doing that. I can think of like the Mean Girls scenario, you know, where one girl's like, oh, I really love your dress. And the one girl turns to the other, she's like, oh, can you believe she's wearing that? You know, it's like total stress craziness. So fawn is another one. These are the words that I've pulled out that can really boost your success here. The first is goal setting. When I go deeply and work with my clients, you know, we do a lot about what I call big picture tools in life design tools, because I know that when you're on mission, you will probably trigger less over trivial things because you're so on point that it's like your whole being wants to keep you in a really great space to accomplish your mission. So goal setting to me is actually a stress management tool when you're not triggered by setting a goal because it feels too big. So there's a little trick to getting that finessed just right for you. Generous. I want you to be super generous with yourself, because what I share with you today, like sometimes people actually cry. They're like, I had no idea about this, that I've been messing myself up for so many years or even decades. So I want you to be generous with yourself and with others to understand that once someone has triggered the stress response, they're not their true self. I bet you can think right now of someone who you knew was under the line, spouting stuff, saying stuff, or acting a certain way, and you're like, that's not the true them. That's them under the influence of stress hormones. So be super generous and also be gentle with yourself. Any kind of change, we're an instant boom, boom society. You know, I want you to have a little bit of grace for yourself and gentleness as you're working on this. Last are H, and I'm going to do these off without this share here. So heart, hamstrings, head, and how are you showing up? So I'm going to go stop my share so you can see all of me here. Let's see. Make sure this is working. Yay. Okay, so hopefully we're all good. So heart. These H's basically are setting you up so that you can show up in your true self and take up the space you should take up in the world. Okay, we try to make ourselves small sometimes, and I really want to give you permission to get wide and big. So the first thing I want you to do is pretend your shoulders are going out toward the walls and open up this whole space around your heart. Open your ribs really wide for a moment. And just really open up. Like, it's really interesting to have that permission to get big, because most of the time we're trying to make ourselves look a little skinnier. I want you to go big, go really wide. When you open up this space here, maybe you even saw a little difference in me right there, but when this space is opened up more, your clients, your coworkers, everyone you come in contact with is going to know, like, and trust you better. Because you just made yourself vulnerable by going wide and opening up the front of your body. When we go tight like this, we're protecting ourselves. So you send a totally different message when you go wide. It sends a friendliness message, like it's okay to be with you. So I want you to go wide here. Next one's kind of funny, but I want you to sit up a little and grab your butt and pull it up so it's like toward your spine. So you're sitting on your hamstrings. Okay, these muscles here on the back of your legs, your femur bones. So that's what's on your chair. So let's go back to how you were. So sit on your butt. I like to say that you're not supposed to sit on your butts. Okay, you're supposed to sit on your hamstrings. Then do it, see what that feels like. Actually reach back and feel the lumbar area of your back. You might feel a little bit of an indentation there. It might be kind of flat. And now I want you to grab your butt again. You have permission, pull it back, and then feel how deep your lumbar is. So it's a really different feeling. We're actually not supposed to sit on our butts, we're supposed to sit on our hamstrings. Now you can get right up and down, you're really springy. That sends a message to whomever you're communicating with that you're ready to be helpful. You're present. If you're on your butt, you're shrinking back away. Plus, this is kind of funny, but think about a dog for a minute. If a dog is scared, what does it do? It tucks its tail, right? Tucks its tail under. If it's happy, the tail's like up and wagging, right? So feel back to where your tail would be. Go back to your butt. You'd be tucking your tail. Now pull your butt back. So now your tail, your bushy tail can wag, okay? So it's a happiness factor right there. Getting on your hamstrings sends a totally different message to the people that you're serving, to the people you're with, especially if you're sitting down. By the way, this was a real hard transition for me. I had crappy posture my whole adult life until I learned this 4 years ago. And it's been a constant, I'm a work in progress, like how I sit in my car now. I finally achieved it. I get in the car, I'm on my hamstrings. I had to change my seat a little bit. She can play with this. So also, you're learning all this stuff on Zoom right now. If you're in this position with your heart space wide and you're on your hamstrings, you will actually take in information better into your hippocampus. And that gets to this one here, head. So with your head, I want you to take a moment and just look out your window if you have a window in your room. If you don't have a window, look at some art or something that's a little higher up, like get your head up to the horizon. And just look around for a moment, because most of the time we're down on our computers or keyboards, we're on our little magic boxes, right? We're down, and we lose our neck curve. So when you get your head up to the horizon, it's good for your neck, but also it's super good to get a broader perspective. My deceased father-in-law, he was an engineer, and one of the first conversations I ever had with him, like really in-depth, just one-on-one, he was sharing with me how in order to solve a problem, you need to be a technology above it. So if you get yourself physically up and over the problem, you're going to stand a better chance at solving it than if you're down in the muck. When I was a nonprofit exec, I used to say it all the time. It's like, we got to get out of the muck if we're going to solve this. We're not going to solve it if we're down in the muck. Does that make sense? So you got to get up. You got to get up and get your head up every once in a while. You're on computer a lot. Look out the window. Get your eyes focused on something way out there for a moment. It's going to really make a difference for you. So those are your H's. We're going to dive now in. I'm going to bring up my slides again for you. We're going to dive into pressure free. So this is the last part of my talk for you today. Is going to be the 3 steps of the pressure free method. And let's pop it up for you. Okay, play. So, more alliteration here, help you remember. Targets, triggers, tools. These are the 3 steps of the pressure free method. And the first step are targets. You hear this a lot, like you have to have a deep why if you're gonna make any change. But I want you to ask, like you chose, you could have been on a different thing right now, but why did you choose to come here, like in this hour? There must have been some reason why you came here to this. That starts your why. It's like, why is it important for you to get a handle on your stress? Or help your organization have less stress? Or whatever that thing is for you. Targets tend to fall into 3 areas. Performance targets, those are financial, career, any sort of type of performing your day. So it's not like just being on stage or like athletic performance. It's like anyway, how you make a sandwich. Like, are you bumping your elbows and dropping the knife, or what's going on? Second are health reasons. And the third are improved relationships. It's funny, I put these in the order of how people usually choose to come and work with me. Most of them come because they want something better performance-wise. And then the health things start to work for them. I'll never forget when I had a high-level exec at a Fortune 500 company. Like, she's working with me for performance reasons. And about 9 months in, she goes, I have something amazing to tell you. A condition she had had her entire life, a pretty serious disease, was completely in remission. Her physician was shocked. He's like, what are you doing? And how did you do this? And she goes, I have a stress coach, and it's changed my life. And like, that disease caused so much pain. And sometimes you don't even realize how much pain you're in when you have something. Last is improved relationships. So those kind of just start to improve too, just because you're not triggering so much. So again, here are some performance targets: salary, revenue into your organization, winning grants, all the things you have to do, working with donors, working with city councils and commissions, your promotions, knowledge, skills, other pursuits, any pursuit or endeavor you have, like learning how to paint or learning how to sing, any of those things. Health targets, less illness, less general illness. I used to catch everything my boys brought home from school. I would be sick several times a year, but I'd like work through it, power through it, until 2010, when I created this method. In these 10 years, I've had 5 small colds, 3 in the first 2 years. So in 8 years, I've only had 2 small colds. And I used to get sick all the time. It was amazing. I didn't realize how stress was compromising my immune system, but it was huge. Better sleep is a huge one. More energy, better athletic performance, less chronic disease. All chronic disease is either directly caused by these stress hormones or exacerbated by them. So if you have any sort of disease going through time, and it's mental chronic disease as well as physical chronic disease. And then better skin. I mentioned that because I suffered from eczema all over my hand. My first big violin competition at 13, this hand just, I didn't know what it was. The doctor just, oh, that's eczema. I tried every cream, including like the bag balm that they use on cow udders. That did not work. Nothing worked until 2010. I created this method, and in 8 weeks, my hands completely cleared up. I could not even fit a ring on these fingers before. I mean, they were so puffy and damaged. And then I'd get stress acne too. Like, it's embarrassing when you're like in your 30s and 40s and you have acne. It's not very fun. But they would flare up, especially like big deadlines for grants or, big performances, all the things I was trying to do. Relationship targets, better friendships, less loneliness. There's a lot of loneliness right now with 2020, all the stressors of 2020. Fewer misunderstandings, improved work environments, and then closer to family. So you might have some relationship targets that are important to you. Here's a chart, and these are only just a handful of the things that you experience when you go into fight or flight. There are 2 floods of hormones. The first, I'm just going to brush over this because I can take a whole hour on this alone. Catecholamines, the adrenaline releases, it pulls fat and glucose from your brain cells and your major muscle cells. So you have a ton of energy to fight or run away. But that's why you can't think and remember. Your hippocampus is depowered. Your willpower is down. So that's why you will stress eat or do things that later you're like, why did I do that? We're not thinking clearly. Or you'll be so muddled you can't make a decision. The cortex shuts down. So if you take a look at this, if you're taking notes, grab your pen and like write down a couple of things that are your reasons. My mother died of breast cancer. My grandmother had it too. So the chances that I have that BRCA2 gene are pretty good. But you know what? It will not express if I keep my brain working in the right way and I don't trigger fight or flight stress hormones. Those will wear at my chromosomes. That will cause that gene variant to express. Otherwise it won't. So here are some things, take a look. One funny one is your bladder and sphincter muscles are going to relax and contract. I thought I had a bladder issue after our 3rd child. No, we were just outnumbered, 3 kids and 2 adults. So travel hockey family, violin performance, boy choir performance, like we're all over the place. And I was just too anxious trying to get everybody where they were supposed to be. So take a look. There's probably something in here for you. Here's a bonus secret. And then when I said 9 and 24 hours, you want to remember this. It takes males up to 9 hours to clear stress hormones out of their cells. It takes females up to 24 hours. That's why I have this picture with the out of order sign. But 9 hours and 24 hours are too long. Plus, once you're triggered, it's really easy to be vulnerable to trigger again and again and again. Honest to God, when I learned this, I cried. I thought, when was the last time I was actually clean of these hormones? I've tried to keep myself fairly healthy my whole life. And it's like, wow, I was triggering drugs inside of me for years and years and years, every single day and night. So breaking the stress cycle is what we need to do here. And I think of the couple down here, like they've had an argument or something. Like he's going to be a little better after about 9 hours, but is she? No, she's still going to be mad. She's going to be in this mess of biological stress hormone mess and vulnerable to trigger again and again. Even the whole next day, she's going to be upset with him. So that's why there's such a big difference gender-wise when it comes to stress and to emotional resiliency and how we do our days. The only way to stop stress from messing with you is to stop the stress cycle. Pressure Free shows you how. I'm going to say it again because this is like huge. The only way to stop stress from messing with you is to stop the stress cycle. Pressure Free shows you how. So you've got your targets. That's your fuel, your rocket fuel, so that now this starts to make sense for you and you will do something. Step 2 are triggers. This is the what. What makes you feel angry, anxious, annoyed, or ashamed? And of course, any fears, like spiders, snakes, elevators, whatever. I used to be deathly afraid of snakes. And just the other day, I walk out in the forest every day, a little snake slithered and I had no response. It's the first time ever. I was like, I can't believe I didn't respond, like, ah, or whatever. So anything you're afraid of, angry, anxious, annoyed, or ashamed. What triggers you? When do you tend to overreact? There's usually times in our day that are kind of habitual, that we'll overreact to things, like feeling we're going to be late in the morning, feeling we have to hurry. So like, when do you tend to overreact? If you can get clear, especially early in the morning, about a few of these, you're going to stand a better chance of getting into your day a little better. What or who makes you overreact? I was coaching at the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, one of their conventions. And one of my clients, she was 13 with type 1 diabetes. This is a type 1 nation conference. She was in the front row with her whole family. They were hosting me to speak at this event. And she stood up in front of this standing room only crowd and she goes, my whole family makes me overreact. So the very people who love her the most and who have to deal with so much helping her as a type 1 diabetic were yet the very people that would cause her to overreact about things. So sometimes it's people that love us the most because we have a habit. They say this and we overreact. So we got to tease that out. We got to figure that out. What makes you feel annoyed or angry? What do you worry about? What do you bite your pen or pencil about? Who or what makes you feel anxious? And then what are you ashamed of? Can be something from 30 years ago, you know? Getting clear about what causes you to feel those 8 emotions, then we can do something about it. So really it's about awareness. That's why I want you to be super generous with yourself and gentle, because you've had these habits. You could have had these habits from the time you were really little. And you might say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I triggered over this all these years, but it's okay. Today is a new day. It's a new moment. And you're going to start to do something new. So don't beat yourself up about the past. It's not helpful. We're going to start new. Like I like to say, it's a new day. It's a blank page. We get to decide, okay? All right, so next slide. Oh, what triggers you? What do you argue about? Here's our couple again. And is it really worth it? If you're messed up for 9 hours and 24 hours and you're holding hostile thoughts toward each other for all that time, is that really worth it? Any of your triggers, is it really worth it? Yesterday in my session, a gentleman asked at the end, he asked, what do I do if something's out of my control? It makes me feel angry. You need to assess for a moment, is getting angry about something that is out of your control worth it? Worth harming your body and your mind for up to 9 hours? When I ask that question, the answer is no. Even a death, even something really tragic happening, Sadness, by the way, notice sadness wasn't one of the trigger words, trigger emotions. You can feel sadness purely with tears and everything and not trigger the stress response. But if you get anger mixed in it, or anxiousness gets mixed in it, then you will trigger. So that's kind of a cool thing to know. I don't share that very often. Something must have inspired, maybe it's helping you because something inspired me to say that. Here's a big one. I want you to pull on your big girl pants, big boy pants, okay? Do you cause others to trigger the stress response? Yes, there's secondhand stress. So you're taking on the stressors of other people and worrying about other people. We'll get to that in a moment. But I want you to ask yourself, are you pushing other people's buttons? I'm raising my hand. I know I have. I know exactly what to say to cause my husband to feel anxious. I just have to say, honey, did you deposit your check? Right? It's usually about money. So I have this couple here with money, right? Complaining, any complaint can cause another person to trigger stress hormones, especially if they feel they can't help you. It's helpless, hopeless situation. Meddling, you're getting involved in somebody else's situation or life. Blaming and shaming, struggling. So these are all things that can cause you to trigger another person. Now we have the 2020 triggers laid on top of that. COVID-19. Maybe you're working from home. Maybe you're lonely because you live alone and you're working from home. Or maybe you're home and you're trying to educate your kids and everybody's home and it's a total crazy time. Limited movement. I'm finally pet free. Like we've always had pets and I expected to be traveling all over coaching. I can't go anywhere. So, limited movement, fear of the future. You don't know what's going to happen next. Fear of illness. Then there's racial injustice, lack of understanding, afraid to speak, others' fears. When COVID-19 hit back in March, I got a text from one of my best friends. She's originally from China. She's been here like 17 years and she has a middle school son and school was still on until like middle of March. And she texted me and she goes, my son is getting so bullied at school, really bullied. And they're blaming him for the COVID-19. Like it was terrible. It was really terrible. So there's a lot going on there that we have to unpack. Violence, fires, storms, politics and election anxiety. We never even used the word anxiety to describe anything, especially not elections. People just maturely went and voted. It's so interesting. We've become a very non-emotionally resilient society. So we have all these extra anxieties. And now 2020 has just really exacerbated all that. So let's get to solution. Step 3, tools. Your how-to, the 10-second solution. So I just want to show you, let's see. Oh yeah, so the 10-second solution. The moment you start to have awareness that you're getting tight in any way, or you're starting to like bite your nails or tap a pen or jiggle your leg or angry, anxious, annoyed, ashamed, or any fear, any of those emotions, you're starting to feel it. From the moment you start to feel it, you have about 10 seconds before your amygdala tells your heart rate to charge up, to tell your adrenal glands to release that flood of hormones. 10 seconds is a pretty long time. What can you do in that 10-second window to prevent the release of these hormones? By the way, the adrenaline goes out, and then later, to fix the cells, the glucose and the cortisol go out, glucocorticoids, to fix all of this. So they're actually good. However, when cortisol hits your brain, it can make you feel anxious for no reason. We have to stop the adrenaline so that the glucocorticoids don't go out. Because cortisol is a very natural drug that will wake you up every morning. All these things have good things. However, we're overusing them. That's why people will have adrenal burnout and fatigue. We're overusing the fight or flight stress response. So what can you do in that 10-second window? Just asking that question, you'll come up with some ideas on your own. I've created over 40 tools in my course. They come in 3 types. Body, using your body to interrupt the stress response, using your mind, and then what I call big picture tools, life design tools like goal setting. I'm going to teach just a couple tools for you here based on how much time we have. But I do want you to see this vision, because the last tool I'm going to teach you is this thing here, the celebration Ferris wheel. So there's your visual, because I'm going off my slides now to finish out. And I'm going to teach you some tools. So let me make sure I am good. Yes. Okay, cool. So let me check my time. Let's see. 12:55. So let's see. We started at 10 past the hour, so we're good. We've got 15 minutes. Beautiful. I'll give you a couple tools and then I'll open it up for questions too. So the first tool, I want you to take your hands and put them on your belly and fully relax your abdominal muscles. Fully relax those abdominal muscles. Remember how we went wide here? If you relax your belly muscles too, and you're working with a client or you're working with anyone, they're again going to feel that know, like, trust from you. We tighten our abs to protect our organs. When you relax them, you signal to your brain that you're okay. So it's a neuroscience trick. Very simple. Another super simple tool that my clients like to use is a smile. So, you know, while walking around like this. My son had a friend who was doing she was in Haiti on a mission trip, and she came back to Michigan. And when she got off the plane, she said she just wanted to turn right around and go back because nobody was smiling. And on the island of Haiti, like, everybody was smiling. So she's like, smile's powerful. We don't smile enough in North America. So get the smiling going. When the corners of the mouth go up, dopamine releases. You probably think about dopamine and addiction, but dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for your hippocampus thinking and remembering, and your whole cortex to work. That shuts off in fight or flight. You want dopamine to be doing good work for you. If you can smile a little, it will keep going. It will work for you so you can choose your response to whatever's going down. That's so powerful. That gives you that empowerment. Now you can choose. You can choose to overreact if you want and release the stress hormones, but you're going to have to suffer the 9-hour, 24-hour effect, not to mention the residual long-term chronic effects, right? Or you can say, you know, hey, this is how we can get to solution faster. It's kind of cool. So relax your abs, smile. The last one I want to give you is this celebration Ferris wheel deal. So I want you, you know, most of us are inside the hamster wheel and we're running and we're exhausted and tired. I remember once I came home from work when I was a nonprofit exec, I flopped on the couch, and we had dogs and cat, like all kinds of pets and everything. I would never in my silk suit like flop on the couch, right? And my son comes by and goes, geez, Mom, you look like you need a cigarette. It's hilarious. I've never smoked in my life. But I was just like that exhausted hamster wheel thing. So I want you to get out of there and come around, and now imagine there's a wheel in front of you, like that graphic I had, but whatever colors you like. Obviously I like blue. That's my sofa, my chair. I want you to push and imagine the spinning. The spinning of this wheel is a metaphor for the energy of your life. Every time you break the stress cycle, even just for a few moments, you just gave yourself quality life where you can think clearly, where your body's not all messed up with a bunch of hormones. It's so cool. So press up like this. Now do it again with me and leave your arms up there. And now come on down like this with your thumbs out. So you're down, you know, all the way down. You'll notice your thumbs are out toward the wall, and you just expanded this heart space. Like your heart space is really big. All right. So Ferris wheel helps with your posture. It also is silly, right? You're going to run like this all day. So you'll smile a little bit. So now you have dopamine flowing. Plus, I'm assuming you're all adults on here. Maybe some kids are sneaking in and watching. When you push like this, it allows the adult brain to start to retrain, to actually create new neural pathways when you do a big motion. So some of my tools for my clients, they're big motions, because I know that they can start to retrain a habit you may have had for a long time. So that's your starter tool. That is the pressure-free method. Targets, triggers, tools. Your targets fuel you. Your triggers are awareness of what's been triggering you. I'm 10 years into using my own method on myself. I'm still finding triggers. Now they're pretty sensory, like certain smells, how things feel, Sounds for sure. I'm a violinist. Sounds really bug me. So you'll be on the lookout, and then you're going to just start to use these simple tools. You'll just relax your abs. Nobody knows you're doing that. I just did it here, you know, especially on Zoom. They're not going to see your belly. So don't worry about how fat you look, okay? Just relax gently. Don't push it out, just like relax those muscles. So let's see, let's open it up for questions. There are no stupid questions, by the way. I've given you a lot of stuff here to think about. I could talk for a whole hour just on glucocorticoids. So if you have any questions, please just raise your hand. You can come over to click participants, and then you'll see that there's a raise hand option. And I would love to take a couple questions here to close out. So do we have any questions? I see you all here. Somebody's got to have a question. I'll give you a question if I don't see. Oh, let's see. We have a raised hand from Pauline. Yay. Hi, Pauline. Can you hear me?
Please unmute yourself, Pauline.
Can she unmute herself? There she is.
Can you post the information on how to obtain your documents that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I can.
We will provide those actually, Pauline, sorry, Elle.
No problem.
They'll be posted on our housing website, jobs.utah.gov/housing after the conference is over.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you can always go to l@pressure-free.com too, ELLE. And I'll be sure, I had a couple of people do that yesterday and I just got it right to them. So we had a good question yesterday, and it was about secondhand stress. So I'm watching, put your hand up, I'd love to answer your question, but this question was, you know, how can I prevent myself from overreacting when I'm worried about someone else? So here's my straight up answer. The best way that you can help someone who's dealing with something difficult is to assume success for them, not to worry about them, but to truly be in full belief that they can get to solution, that you can help them get to solution. But when we worry, that's tightening energy. Tightening energy doesn't solve and doesn't heal, and it doesn't fix. If you can go wide with your energy, wide with your face, be in full belief for this person, full belief that you can help them, full belief that they can help themselves, that creates this really beautiful magical energy where they start to believe it too. I've used it with so many students who believe that, you know, I had one kid who, he thought he was going to get an F on a final exam, and he texted me. He was had been my client in the fall, and this was the spring. He goes, I feel like I'm going to get an F. And so I texted him exactly what to do, 3 simple steps. And it was incredible what happened. He not only did he not get an F, he thought, you know, I need to get a C to pass. I think I'm going to fail. He got an A- on that final, because I just went right straight to the fact that I knew he was brilliant. I knew he could do it. So a lot of times we just need to provide that support for people that we know that they can do it, because there's so many messages telling them they can't. So if you have secondhand stress coming on you, you're worried about someone, flip the switch on that. I do this little flip the switch thing, like there's a light switch on my head, and say, no, I assume success for that person. I believe deeply that whatever transpires is going to be okay, so that you can, the worry is not going to help. It's just going to cause you a sleepless night and you to not even be thinking as well. Ask an empowering question. How can I help? How can we make this situation better for them? So I hope that might be a question that is helpful to some of you. Any other questions? We had questions yesterday. Come on in, ask a question before we close out.
We have 5 minutes left, plenty of time for questions.
5 minutes. Anyone have a big takeaway here? Like, what was a big takeaway for you? Any sharing would be lovely too. Anybody? Are you all shy? We wouldn't be shy if we were in person. We'd be like high-fiving and all kinds of stuff. We'd actually be shaking hands. Oh my. Nobody?
Well, I actually have something I just wanted to say. When you mentioned about sadness not being a stressor, but when other things are added onto that, and then said that you don't normally mention that. That was really helpful for me. So I
Oh,
appreciate you mentioning that.
yeah, I'm gonna have to add that in. I see Rob is here. Rob, you have a question?
Yeah, I don't really have a question. I just have a comment that I wanted to say. I thought it was interesting about the 9 hours for males to get rid of the stress, hormones, and the 24 hours for the females. And anyway, I took down a bunch of notes and stuff, and I plan on taking this home and sharing it with my wife and kind of talking about some different things and stuff because she's under a lot of stress as well, And so, I just thought that was just interesting. And so I think I plan on taking this home and sharing these tips and tricks with her. And
Beautiful.
thank you for this.
Beautiful.
I appreciate it.
That's so great. I love it. Let's see, Melissa. Oops.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, so with the stress hormone, kind of piggybacking off what the previous gentleman stated, is there a way to get that to get the hormones to leave the body sooner than that? Like, can you do exercise, try to sweat them out? Is there anything, or do they just stick and you just need to do the best you can do? Like, what can we, because those also make you fat. The stress hormones,
Exactly.
they do
Yeah,
make you fat.
The stress hormones, they have 4 fat building effects, actually.
Yes.
So I have a set of recovery tools that I teach my clients.
Okay.
And it's so individual. Like I could look at you and say, oh, this is going to work for you. But over here, it's like, oh, that doesn't work. Right. So
Okay.
the amount of hormones that are released and then what happens next. I love to tell people, don't think cortisol is bad, because if you've released adrenaline, your brain needs cortisol to fix those cells. So don't think of cortisol as any of this as bad. If you truly were under attack, it's beautiful. We're just overusing them. Okay. So it's, yeah, I think it's, it is individual. If you do exercise, just don't go all like Rambo. Do it very gently or you'll get an escalated heart rate and release too much. So like a calm walk, a nice swim. If you go out there and exercise super hard, like I work with a lot of athletes to find their sweet spot. When they can find the sweet spot of their heart rate, otherwise they're triggering too high and they're actually harming their body every time they work out. So
Okay.
help people kind of find the sweet spot of all of that. But definitely you can exercise, hydrate, because you've dehydrated your brain. So hydrate. That's super important, because you're going to want to reach for all the other kind of beverages.
Right.
That dehydrate.
Right. I need now I'm tired and I need a Pepsi.
Right. And remember,
Right.
90% of your fatigue is emotional because you were not on the farm all day.
Right. Did you,
What's
and I know I heard it, but I was not by a paper. You said you have a website?
Yeah, you can just go to pressure-free.com is an easy way to find me, or lingalls.com. Yeah, and I have a YouTube, I do a lot. You can feel free to link in. Any of you here, I'm considering you my friend. Like Facebook me or LinkedIn to me. I'm happy to connect with you guys. So. Any other questions? Well, it's just really been my honor. I like to show this little prop because I spoke at a housing convention last year and this was the little gift. And I think about all the incredible work you guys do for homelessness, for housing, affordable housing. It's a problem that a lot of people don't know about. And I'm really glad that I'm kind of clued in now and know more about it. So thank you for having me. I loved being here. And I wish you a totally pressure-free life. Keep pushing your Ferris wheel.
Thanks so much, Elle. What a great presentation.
Right.
Appreciate and thank everyone for attending. This webinar will end in 5 seconds. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of the conference.